theoretically, so that you could go and grab something, you know, snack to eat while you're doing these long hours. And it's for the cast and crew. And it's called craft service. And so, you know, this guy, there was never anything on the craft service table to eat. And you'd come in, you'd have these early morning calls, and you'd want a bowl of cereal, and you'd have to find Peter, and he locked the bowls of cereal, you know, the cereal boxes, in a cupboard. I said, Peter, put the cereal on the table so I don't have to find you, and you have to find. He said, no, I don't want anyone to eat the cereal. Well, why is it here? Well, the crew will eat it. So, get more, Peter, and you know, and I can't, they don't give me enough. In the meantime, he's showing us pictures of the new boat he bought, you know? While we have, literally, in the afternoon, you know, tomatoes sliced with cremora, you know, on the table. That's it to eat. So, we were, you know, just trying to get through it. And of course, everything changed by the second and third season. But, you know, the first year there was no UPN. It was just this funky little syndicated space show that, you know, probably they thought would be canceled right off the boat, you know. So it makes you really bond under those circumstances.
Thank you.
Yes?
I also want to say welcome to Atlanta and welcome to the South.
Thank you.
As I understand it, you and Maria Sirtis were originally cast.
Sirtis, yeah, Marina Sirtis.
Were originally cast in opposite roles, where she was Tasha Yar and you were Councilman.
Right.
What do you think you would have brought to that role as Councilman Troy
had? Tricky question. You know, what happened, I think that the original concept for Troy and Tasha was, the concepts were quite different than how they panned out. And that was Jean just making a change, a spontaneous change. We went in for a number of auditions, and I was reading the part of Troy, and Marina was reading Tasha. And after one audition with Jean, he said, "Why don't you guys switch?" And that's, you know, how it ended up being. I mean, I think that the way that I originally, I'm trying to go back now. Counselor Troy was this sort of, more in the vein of like Spock in a certain way, just almost ethereal, very intellectual, and really like a psychoanalytical mind. You know, obviously empathic, but really of a certain intellect. And so, but you know, that cool ice blonde kind of where you don't read anything, you know, from her. So it was more of that quality, I think, had it been different, you know, and hard to know, because, you know, it evolves as you're doing it. You know, you start, all of a sudden you look at something and you go, that might be nice for that character. And, you know, the role of Tasha took on, there were certain things that weren't written about her, but just from my own personal life I brought to it, or my own, you know, concept of how someone in that situation might respond. And, you know, so there was a certain kind of inner fragility to Tasha. She had no parents, had no family, you know, was a survivor, you know, was a victim as a child. And so in that core of her is pretty fragile. And even though the great contrast of her being so physically able and so seemingly able to handle any situation. In fact, inside of her, she was quite scared. So I was always trying to find ways to kind of let that out a little bit, you know, her uncertainty come through. Did you have, yes?
Yeah, that plays right into what I was going to ask you, which was, you know, I've had a little experience acting, but it's always roles that 100 people have played, and it was written by some guy a long time ago. And of course, you're the only Tasha Yar, and I was just wondering, when you're the only one to play a character like that, how much do you feel like, you know, that's your character, you kind of own that character, you know, and how much do you feel like it belongs to the other people behind the scenes that are directing and writing for you? And I guess partly also I was going to ask, what do you feel like, what were your bits that you added to Tasha that you kind of answered that?
Well, you know, it's a very two-dimensional character. It starts out as, you know, it's an idea, a concept of a writer's, and then, you know, this actor comes and breathes it to life, and of course brings their own personal life's experiences, you know, to it. I mean, I don't really look at it as, you know, it's mine, I own it, I created it, you know, I don't have that, I just don't think in those terms. It is, what's nice is what was lucky for me was that Gene was still alive, so there were all kinds of things I could ask him about, you know, and have the writer there. And then you begin to collaborate. And he was interested in what I had to say, you know, about her and where it was going. And so you have this sort of, you're starting to mesh these thoughts and these ideas, and he can say something that leads me down a certain path. And that's a good writer, director, actor combination when that starts to work together. Oftentimes you don't have that. The director is just there to kind of move you around and, you know, leaves you alone. So you have to come with all your stuff already. But it's best really when it's a collaboration, I